Moritz is a boutique audio brand from Hong Kong built around a dude who made his first speaker systems at the age of 12. So when they release a $729 tribrid bone conduction IEM, you know we're balling. But is it any good? And is it worth talking about? Well, let's talk about it in today's video of Obi Reviews Audio. Before we start, I would just like to thank Moritz for sending over the Paradise in exchange for my honest opinions. Rest assured, all my thoughts and opinions about this product are of my own, and I was not paid or compensated in any way to say anything about the product. So if you're anything like me, I had no idea what Moritz was prior to basically SIAS, where they invited me to review some of their products. And I will say that I was genuinely surprised about how interesting their products were. And they're a company that started off in 2017. And as mentioned, this is a dude who made his first speakers at the age of 12. So currently they only have 3 IEMs in their production line, which is the Gloria, which is their, I think over $1,000 tribrid EST IEM, followed by the 2 new releases, which are the Dragon, which is a single DD, I believe $600 IEM, and the Paradise, which is a 2DD, 4BA, and 2 bone conduction driver IEM priced at $749 So how does this tribrid bone conduction IEM sound? Let's find out, starting with the unboxing experience. The unboxing experience of the Paradise is acceptable for a near top of the line IEM. You get a rather large box that includes a large case with dividers, a small leather soft case, some ear tips, some paperwork, the cable, and the IEMs themselves. The case feels very premium, although does not come with any nets, as it features a nice print instead. The Paradise uses an all-resin shell that composes of the 2 dynamic drivers, 4 balanced armature drivers, and 2 bone conduction drivers. The Paradise also features tuning switches with the option to go to the 3 advertised modes, but you can find slight variations when going outside the advertised modes. The fit is quite good despite not having any wings to stabilize your inner ear. It also looks very beautiful with the flowery patterns under the orange resin shell, which is surprisingly hard to come by at any price point. My only gripe with the earpieces is the air pressure buildup due to the complex driver system, and this is what happens whenever you feel like your ears are clogged and can only be fixed by yawning, swallowing, or opening your mouth. While not inherently a flaw, as many IEMs have this due to their driver configuration and the user's ear anatomy, I still find it bothersome as I'm forced to readjust and stay in place to get the best sound. As for the cable, it's a fitting premium feeling 8-core modular cable that looks and feels great. The modular system uses the older plug where there aren't any locks to secure the jack, but it's still nice that they included a modular jack with all the available mainstream jacks. So moving on to the sound signature of the Paradise, this is a very fun V-shaped IEM with insanely good bass and technicalities. And I don't usually say that in the same sentence because a lot of bassy IEMs sacrifice a lot of technicalities for the sake of being bassy, but not this set. And this has tuning switches, as I mentioned in the unboxing and build and fit section. So we're going to be talking about the stock tuning, which is the natural mode. And in the natural mode, this has a very thick but well balanced bass with a lot of really good texture and impact and punchiness, respectively. Not that focused of a mid-range, but the upper mid-range is surprisingly well balanced, and forward does not sound recessed at all, and a very sparkly detail but occasionally metallic sounding treble that might bother some other people, but I would say that it balances out pretty well from the big bass that the Paradise has. Now, as for source and drivability, I was genuinely surprised how easy it was to drive this IEM. It has, I believe, 8 ohms of impedance and 100 dB of sensitivity, and despite the kind of low sensitivity of 100 dB, I still think that this is a very easy IEM to drive. However, it is an IEM that you want to pair with a good source, because if you don't, you're going to get a pretty muddy sound, you're going to get a pretty limp sound. So you want to get a pretty decent source, at least a dongle DAC, not just straight up your smartphone or your laptop plug or whatever. want to get a little bit of a cleaner source to get the most out of this, as it's a little bit source sensitive. And as for volume scaling, I think that this is an IEM comfortably in the midsection. I don't think that I could handle too long of a long listening session on higher volumes. But mid to low volume listening is really good on this IEM. I did not expect it to be as good as it really did, but I appreciate anything that could allow me to enjoy its sound in mid to low volume listening. Now, let's talk about arguably the best thing about the Paradise and what sets the Paradise apart from a lot of sub $1,000 IEMs, and that is the bass. And the best way for me to explain this is with the song Mariana's Trench by August Burns Red, starting at the 051 mark, as I have not heard any IEM render that kick drum double bass combo guitar combo as well as the Paradise did. It is so nuanced, it is so big, punchy, and impactful, but yet still tight enough to be able to hear the small details in the kick drum or in the bass that you're not really gonna hear much with other IEMs. At least I haven't, under $1,000 US, and that is just crazy. It's borderline bass head too, so you would expect that this kind of muddies the sound, but it doesn't. This kind of reminds me of the Symphonium IEMs. I believe it was the Meteor, which also had a very big bass presentation, and yet it was still very tight and very well detailed. And maybe you could thank the bone conduction driver for this, but I'm just in awe with how good the bass performance of this IEM is. It is crazy good. Now, moving on to the mid-range, I think that it's still pretty good considering the bass amount, or the amount of bass that this IEM has. Obviously, it's no mid-centric IEM. It's no mid-forward whatever IEM that you might expect from something like, I would say, Soft Ears Twilight, as that's my kind of baseline for near top of the line flagship vocal-centric IEMs. But in the case of the Paradise, I think it's still pretty well balanced. I don't find the lower mid or the mid-range at all to be recessed or thin beyond what I would personally find as my standard. I think that the upper mids is really well done, although a little bit not the most natural sounding, as I would say the thickness can definitely add onto a bit of a coloration of the overall sound, which, you know, pretty nice considering that this is a bassier IEM, so I kind of expected that, because I really don't like the really thin, super V-shaped bassy IEMs, because it just sounds wrong and weird, but in this case, it sounds much better. And the upper mids, like I mentioned, it's on the thicker side. It's definitely not the most open sounding mid-range that you will find, but it perfectly balances with the bass presentation because it doesn't sunken out the mids like other V-shaped IEMs do. And I really appreciate that Moritz was able to find that perfect balance of getting big bass but also not sacrificing the mids too much. And for the treble, this is essentially a double-edged sword in probably the literal terms in terms of audio, because first, it is a very well detailed IEM. There's a lot of details here that you don't really find in cheaper sets, especially cheaper hybrid sets, that I just absolutely adore. It's so sparkly, it's so detailed. However, it can get a little too much, particularly in the mid treble, as I think that 8K glide going up is very much present. I don't think that's an artifact of like resonance, but it's a very consistent peak, so I never found this to be low res sounding or like cheap sounding at all. It's still very resolving, which I'll mention later, but it definitely has a bit of edginess to it that some people might not like. If you really like energetic treble, this is a pretty fun sounding set. I really enjoyed how this set sounded like, especially when it comes to songs that have a lot of like details being hidden during complex tracks. It is perfect for that. But if you don't like really like it gets up there kind of treble, you might not find the Paradise to be as appealing, but I personally found it really good. So as for technicalities, yeah, I mean, like, what do you expect from a near top of the line, upper mid-range kind of set? This is amazing. Just from the bass dynamics, being able to pinpoint and pick apart like small details in the bass line or in just the bass region itself, all the way to the mid-range and treble sounding surprisingly nuanced despite the warmth and the thickness coming from the low end. it is just so capable for the price. I wouldn't say it's the most capable for the price, but I will say that it's definitely up there and definitely justified for its price range. Resolution is probably just around okay for me, but I will say that I don't really find this kind of set or this kind of tuning to be focused too much on technicalities. That's why I was really surprised how technical sounding the Paradise was. But again, set your expectations. It's no like head up super like EST kind of hybrid IEM that just picks apart the detail in like a straight crazy surgical way, but the point conduction really does a lot for the overall texture of the sound, so I really enjoyed that. Compared to the vocal tuning emphasizes the upper mids to treble while toning down the bass. While on paper this might seem like a great idea, this exemplifies the issue that I had with the natural tuning's treble, and I did not enjoy my listening experience with the vocal as much as I did on the natural mode. Compared to the texture mode, this is essentially the pure bass head mode of the Paradise and fits perfectly for big bass genres. It maintains the level of bass maturity that you'll usually find in bass headsets, a little too much bass for my taste, but I know some people who would die for this kind of sound. Compared to the Hi-B Zeta, the Zeta and Paradise exhibit a near identical quality, with the bass being the highlight and the rest complementing it perfectly. The main difference being the Zeta having a more refined and mature sound, while the Paradise sounds edgier, livelier, and more nuanced thanks to the bone conduction driver. But you can tell that Hi-B has really put in the effort to make sure that each driver in the Zeta plays really well with each other. The Paradise did not achieve this at the same level. Technicalities are also generally better on the Zeta, but Paradise does not lag behind at half the price. Compared to the Yanyan Canon 2, the Canon 2 used to be my mid-fi reference for bassy fun sounding IEMs, but the Paradise may have replaced that now. The bass is more nuanced, the sound is more engaging and energetic, and it is a step up in terms of technicalities. Granted, the Yanyan Canon 2 is still the safer and more normal choice due to its more linear bass presentation and less edgy yet still metallic timbre presentation. Compared to the SIMGOT EA2000, the EA2000 features a similar tech to make it one of the best IEMs in terms of having a perfect bass presentation. Despite the Paradise being the best fun V-shaped IEM that focuses in the bass amongst all of the IEMs in this comparison, the EA2000 still reigns in balancing quantity and quality for my preferences. The EA2000, for all intents and purposes, is my ideal bass tuning with a level of nuance rivaled by flagships and quantity that fits perfectly with all of my genres. However, the Paradise is no slouch in the bass quality, but the quantity is undoubtedly more than I usually like, even in the natural mode. Compared to the SIMGOT EA1000, the little brother to the EA2000, the EA1000 takes from the bass of the EA2000, cranks it down a bit, and makes the tuning more normal. Similar impressions compared to the Paradise, but the EA1000 normalizes the sound to be more versatile than both the EA2000 and Paradise at the cost of fun and engagement. Lastly, let's compare it to the Into Aura Splendor 2, another boutique brand from Hong Kong I met in SIAS, and I just thought it would be cool to mention them despite the comparison being a little unfair. The Splendor 2 lags behind basically everything but uses DSP to change the tuning, while the Paradise uses tuning switches. Which you prefer depends on your personal preference. And to finally conclude, this is my favorite V-shaped IEM as of the moment of all time. Like, maybe you could put in consideration the Tia Trio from 64 Audio, but I've spent more time with this, and holy, it is just an absolute beauty to listen to. It is an absolute beauty inside and out. It just sounds so good. It looks great. And it's now my new favorite V-shaped IEM. Sorry, Yanyan Canon, you have now been replaced, but you're still the best under $500. So, you know, you still got your own thing. But definitely, my new standard for fun V-shaped IEMs is the Moritz Paradise. And for the price, I don't think you can really regret this kind of sound. I really genuinely don't. It's so well done, and I really appreciate that, and I really think that Moritz is on the right track here. But so we're definitely going to be seeing, or we're going to be paying attention to the kind of IEMs that they will be releasing in the near future. So That's my review on the Moritz Paradise. Thank you so much for reading or watching my review on the Paradise. If you like this content, consider giving me a like. If you would like to see more of my content, subscribe, check out Audio Notions, check out my socials, join the Discord. And with that, obodio out.